Hi there, my name is Kendrick, and welcome to another ENFP Mail interview. Today I get to interview Shane. So Shane, welcome, man.
Thank you, Kendrick. Nice to be on your channel.
For sure, dude. Happy to have you. So can you tell us what your full type is?
Sure. I am an ESTP, and in objective personality, that's Se-Ti. I'm consume first, play second, blast third, sleep last, and double masculine saviors.
When you got your results back, what did you think and how did you feel?
I was one of those few people who got it right. So I had done a lot of MBTI studying. I did some work in socionics, and through a lot of self-study, tests, talking to friends and family, I was pretty certain of my type, and Dave nailed it. And I didn't go all the way down to the modalities. I wasn't sure about blast and play. Those are pretty close for me. But I knew I was sleep last. That made it easier. And yeah, I sort of guessed right through, I would say, working backwards. What do I don't have for sure? What have been my biggest life mistakes? What are my biggest problems I still struggle with even as I grow and mature? And through that process, I arrived at my type rather than starting at the top and working my way down.
Yeah, man, that sounds like a really good way to approach it, instead of figuring out what you have, figuring out what you don't have. It's also interesting that you got type because your specific type is not common in the community. So how did you get into the whole personality thing to begin with?
Wow. Here's where I guess my consume and blast will come in. To really answer that question, I have to go back further. And that was, growing up, I was always interested in the mysteries of the universe and all of that. And as I grew older, that narrowed down to myself. And, I've been in a lot of different areas or aspects of life, and at any different part of that journey, I could have looked like a different type. For instance, growing up, I was a surfer. I became a professional surfer, and that seems to kind of go with my type, I guess. But once I realized that wasn't working out for me the way I had hoped and wanted it to, I went to college where I majored in philosophy and religion. And I graduated and did a master's degree at Yale with those two subjects of mine. Now, that degree and $6 will get me a Starbucks. So it's, it was more for internal self-worth and growth than anything else, I suppose. But at least I took a discipline of study and made it all the way, through to the top. So with that in mind, from the outside looking in, it might be difficult to type me. Some people would say, well, he must be intuitive first or thinking or this or that. But really, something standard and consistent from beginning all the way to the present has been an emphasis on physical activity. And the best way to feel good for me is to get out and do something. The way to make me feel bad is to make me feel trapped or stuck in the same place or something like that. So that also kind of goes with my impatience, and I've made a lot of decisions in the moment that turned out to be bad long term, like keeping all my money instead of paying my taxes, and doing that again and again and again until one day I woke up and found myself going on my 4th year without paying taxes. And that's kind of like a little NI grip we could talk about later.
Right.
Yeah, so again, those are bad things that I use to kind of figure out my type. And that's why once I spent enough time reflecting, it was an easy go at that. At least for the 1st and 4th function. I did have some difficulty figuring out which axis I was on. there were some people who thought, I think you might be a well-balanced ESFP and not an ESTP. And in fact, for a while, I tried to take that and run with it, but it didn't work out in the long run. So we could talk about that later, maybe.
I love how clear you are when you explain your story. That, I guess that's why you are ST first, right? Like giving the sensory facts, the reporter, like
Yeah, and you know, I didn't think of myself like that. I still thought I might struggle with that, you know, because I'm so into fashion and matching my clothes and stuff like that. It would be easy to think of me as, you know, having FI maybe instead of TI, but there are certain, although they're anecdotal, there's certain telltale signs that I lack. You know, I think the voice inflection is one. I talk more straight and consistent, maybe more slowly than your typical FI savior person. And even though I've done things for some really bad reasons, I still have had reasons for everything I do. You know, and so, and I do explain myself, unlike an FI user who would just say, I like it because I like it. Here I am, take it or leave it. You know, if you don't accept me at my best, then you don't deserve me, you know, that kind of thing.
yeah.
I always offer an explanation for why I chose this over that, or why I want one thing over another, or why I'm going to do something, or why I'm going to not do something. I like to get all the details, and it can be frustrating, and it could, you know, make me think sometimes, how could blast be third and not second, maybe. But I think we have the animals in the right order as well.
That was some really good double deciding there. Like you were talking about yourself, and then you made fun of the tribe, and then you went back and forth. So that was so good with the balance with the self and others.
You know, the beauty of that is that I wasn't trying, you know, that's natural. Yeah. That's the state you want to be in when you're reflecting it. You know, I think when we're typing in OPS, I think extreme demon states can actually be difficult to tell apart from flow states. And you know, when you see someone, say, having a big emotional reaction, does that mean they're FE or FI, or does that mean FE or FI demon? Oftentimes you can't really tell. And so when someone notices something on the outside looking in that I didn't even notice as I was processing it, that's a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're both in the same boat for that, because we're both double deciders. So for us, self and others, that's going to be our superpower. We're going to be balanced with that kind of stuff.
Speaking of that, what's your type?
I'm an ENFP. Play, blast, consume, sleep, masculine, feminine, NETE. I'm a jumper. So
okay,
I'm a crackhead. Yeah, play, blast, crackhead. That's what they call us. What David Chan would call.
So we're going to interrupt each other a lot.
Sorry?
I said we're going to interrupt each other a lot.
No, I think we'll be okay, because you have a high consume. And yeah, and I want you to do most of the talking anyways. So I think we're good. I wanted to touch base on something that you said earlier. You talked about the NI grip. And it was clear that you are an EP because your problem is like the system, you know, the government. Like, I don't want to give them my money, you know, the taxes and stuff, you know. And then earlier, when you were kind of introducing yourself and when you were typing yourself, you said that you were chipping away at all the areas that you said that you didn't have, or areas that you saw your life problem. And even right now, you said you still kind of have those life problems, even though you're older now. And so I'm going to guess it's going to come from your NI. So talk about your NI and some of the tidal waves that you've experienced, you know, by not, I guess, not paying attention more to the system, and not, you know, like giving them the middle finger essentially, as opposed to trying to adhere to it, you know?
Right. You know, I find people with their fourth function are either hardly aware of it at all, or like me, they think they're a lot better at it than they actually are. You know, when I'm talking about I used to think I might be lead NI or high NI just because I had interest in philosophy, theology, stuff like that. And it always seemed natural to me to study such subjects and wonder about them. And upon reflection, I realized interest in a subject is a whole different thing than skill in it. You can be a great basketball coach and suck at basketball, right? I can have an interest in NI things without being really good at it. And in my case, it's part of the classic ESTP thing of living in the moment and not seeing the consequences. But I think most frustrating and maybe a little bit ironic in my case is that I always saw the consequences. I knew like this is going to get you down the road. It's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway,
Yeah.
and if it was taxes, drug use. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself ever having been an addict or anything, but I did have a little love affair with cocaine for a while. It's just like, this isn't good for you. This is going to lead to being broke, destroying relationships. It could get you in physical health problems. It could get you in trouble with the law. It's like, it hasn't happened yet. Fuck it. Roll one up. I'm going to do another one right here.
Right.
So it wasn't that I didn't see those things. I think someone with a real blind spot wouldn't even know any better. It's just like, hey, fun, party, let's go. No, I would reflect on my choices, and I knew they were bad choices, and then I did them anyway. And because I knew that when push came to shove, I'd be able to get myself out of it. And I think that's been the great skill of my life. I even have a tattoo of a phoenix on my arm. It's like it looks like a diamond kind of thing. I might show it off later, but it stands for rebirth, after destroying your life, being able to rise again. And have the ability to do that probably better than anyone else I've ever met personally. The problem is everyone else I would have ever met would have never gotten into those difficult problems and burned their life down in the first place. So they wouldn't need that skill. So I think that's a good introduction to the NI grip. Thankfully, I don't have as many of those now. In fact, just recently, I got a stack of envelopes from the IRS, and I thought, oh no, what happened? And I weathered the storm, tried 8 times to their office, and after being rejected 7 times, I got through on the 8th time, worked it out, and me and my demons are friends now. Me and the IRS, yeah, we're buddies again. Even a year ago, I wouldn't have had the willpower or fortitude to do that. Maybe in other things, I'll stand up to someone in a fight or ride a big, giant, scary wave or something. But the IRS was a demon that until this time I hadn't conquered yet, but I'm good now.
All right, man. I got a few comments from the stuff that you said. So first, would you have done all that stuff like the cocaine and whatnot if you did not live in LA? Because I mean, you work in Hollywood, right? So it kind of comes, it's like part of the culture, essentially. So is that more of a product of your environment, or was it something that you would have done anyways if you live, like in a different state in the US? So that's the first question.
Okay.
And then second one is, how do you feel now that you, instead of running away or rejecting the IRS in that system, now that you're working with it, how does it feel compared to when you were trying to outsmart it, essentially? So yeah, go ahead.
Right. Okay, so to answer your first question, I never did alcohol or Coke. I mention it straight off because I never was interested in anything else. I've never smoked. I never dropped pills. Never did anything else. It was just alcohol and cocaine. And I didn't do it because I was depressed. In fact, whenever I had a life crisis, I stopped. Just boom. Okay, we got to get serious. The harder times for me were when things go really well. When I got into Yale, for instance, I partied for a week straight, I think, when I graduated, another party, you know. So it was the good times that were harder for me to control than the bad. And I think some of that is ingrained, you know, had I lived somewhere where that wasn't readily available, I probably would have done something else, you know. But it would have had to have been like an upper or a stimulant. I'm not interested in anything to bring me down or relax. I mean, maybe that's related to sleep last. I don't know, but I want to be energized. I don't want to be like, oh, hey man, what's up?
Right.
The other thing that's interesting for that is typing. Like a good example, the difference between me sober and me when I partied is that I'm a lot more organized and structured now. You know, on the test, you know, like on the 16 personalities test, I still test as a P, but it's close. It's like 54 to 46 or something. Whereas 5-10 years ago, it'd be like 90 to 10 P.
Yeah.
So, you know, someone just meeting me now might say, you know, look around at your room, how nice and clean it is. You must be a J. How could you be a P? First of all, I think ESTPs are the most structured of all the EPs. We're the most likely to have our cars spotless, our closets nice. There has to be one that's the most of something for all of us, right? And I think for EPs and structure, it goes with ESTP more than ENTP or ENFP or ESFP. So sometimes I wonder, you know, would I type the same without the drugs, you know, or am I this type because of it? It's like what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? As far as how does it feel now, you know, sometimes I almost feel like a reborn ISTJ or something, except then I take one look at the ISTJ groups on Facebook and go, yep, I'm not one of them, that's for sure. They're way more serious, and you know, I work hard, play hard. Even as I work a 9-hour day, I'm still cracking jokes and doing funny stuff, and ISTJs are too serious for that sort of thing. So now that I've faced the IRS, you know, I still want to stay strong, and you know, it'd be real easy to backslide and have it lapse again or something. But I have a system, like a TI system in place with which starts with physical health and fitness. So things like staying sober or keeping up with my taxes, they're just a little tiny part of a big overall lifestyle shift that I've encountered or created rather. And I feel like I'm in a good place.
You were talking about the Phoenix rising and being reborn and whatnot, and that kind of talk is very NF, you know. So that's your third animal. That's your NF plus, your NIFE. So it's your third, so you have access to it, which would also make sense why you are interested in philosophy and all that stuff, because it's more abstract and whatnot. So you do have access to it. How do you personally experience it, and what's your attitude towards, you know, the NF, you know, the hippie stuff?
Yeah, you know what, that's a good question, and I have a good answer for that. And it's something that is distinctive of an ST temperament. While I love philosophy, theology, you know, stoicism, there's a bunch of different schools of thought and different lifestyles that I like. But even as a philosophy major and grad student, I always wanted the cash value, you know. So if Kierkegaard's right that we should take a leap of faith, then what does that look like in real life? How do I know whether the action I take is what God wants or what we can call good, you know? So how is this to help me choose between one job or another, or one potential wife or another? You know, without the cash value, it's worthless. So the way I experience it is, yes, I'll put my head up in the clouds with the NFs, but I have to come back to the ground or I'll go down to the depths and with all the theoretical philosophical questions and theories, but I got to come up for air. I need to know that it has some real life value. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time with it. So does it make me healthier? Does it make me a better person? Does it make me happier? If there's not a way to get from point A to point B, then I'm just going to blow up that bridge and not worry about it.
And did you find any practical application to the philosophy and theology when you were studying it and that you apply to your life?
I think in theory, if it goes the way it's supposed to, obviously, different religions can make you a more moral, better person, but we've all seen where that fails at times. And I think Mark Twain said the only good thing to do with advice is to give it away because it never does any good keeping it for yourself, right? So, and I'm just bringing this quote up as a reference piece. I'm not trying to preach to anyone or anything, but I would say my favorite biblical book is the book of James. And one of the verses in that book says, "You believe, that's great. Well, guess what? The demons believe too, just as much as you do, So it's like belief by itself, it doesn't mean shit unless you can carry out the act that is right. I think whether you're religious or atheist or agnostic, I think we all know the difference between right or wrong, not just in a moral sense, but whether it's something we're eating or drinking or doing at work. We all have a pretty good sense of right and wrong. It's, do we listen to ourselves, our higher self, our conscience? Do we listen to that or not? And if you have a weak conscience, that means you need to exercise it, just like having weak arms or weak legs. How do you make them stronger? You practice, you do the dirty work. You start doing squats, you start doing push-ups, you build up your strength. If you have a weak moral sentiment, then you need to study and find something that works for you to get better. But I think it has to come from within. No one from the outside can make you do it.
So you're talking about right and wrong and how we as humans should already know that by default. It sounds like TI to me. Talk about your TI, your identity, your reasons, and your moral compass essentially with that TI.
Okay. Well, it starts, like I said, at its very most basic surface level. I have reasons for why I do things. I don't just do them because that's what I like. There's no such thing as that. I mean, even when it comes to what colors I'm wearing, I can have a reason for it, but I think from that starting point, the next step deeper is worldviews. People's TI think of things in terms of systems. I think it's almost similar to NI in a way, but it's universal in time. That is to say, it's in the moment rather than thinking of the past like SI or future like NI or something like that. So, I have a way of fitting ideas in or cataloging them with other ideas. And if there's an exception to the rule, then I need to look at the rule and rework it. What does that look like in the real world? My workout program. I didn't want a workout program that starts heavy and then 3 days into the new year, I've already flaked on it because I injured myself or I'm too tired or something. But I don't want something so simple that there's no difference between working out or not working out at all. I wanted something with variety, yet I wanted something with structure and precision. So I came up with 7 different exercises for the 7 days of a week. And in 2021, I have not missed a single day, rain or shine, feeling great or under the weather. Every single day this year I've worked out, and it involves Mondays, I do this military march where I put on a 50-pound weight vest, carry two 25-pound dumbbells, two 10-pound ankle weights, and I walk a mile. And part of that mile is uphill. So I'm getting a little bit of endurance, but it's almost like lifting weights, and it's a natural movement. So it's a power exercise. Tuesdays, I run. I run 3 miles. That's all I do. Wednesdays, I do regular classic weights, bench, squats, all of those types of strength training exercises. Thursday, I do jump rope and jumping jacks a bunch. I do 6 sets of 100 of each. And I love it because I look on Instagram, it's like, what does a 35 to 45-year-old male, do 10 jumping jacks? I'm doing 6 sets of 100, it makes me feel like I'm doing all right in that respect. Fridays, I do exercises, strength, but they're exercises, no weight. So I do push-ups, pull-ups, leg lifts, calf raises, stuff like that. Saturday, I do a 5-mile-long hike uphill, and Sunday I box. I have boxing equipment outside. So there's overlap. You could say you're only doing 1 exercise a week of each thing. That's no good. It's like, no, because the running and the jumping jacks, that's both the same sort of thing. So it's like 2 for that. The military march and the weights, that's 2 for that. You see what I'm saying? So there's overlap, and that to me is a TI system. It's not FI, hey, let's exercise, hey, give me that, I'll try this or that, and I value this because it feels good. No, there's a system, there's an approach, there's a reason behind it. When I feel like it's a little too easy, I add some on. When I feel like it's not a little too much and I'm pushing injury, I take a little bit off the weight, and that allows me to move on every day without ever getting hurt. And at the end of every workout, I feel pushed. And 5 o'clock every morning, rain or shine, it doesn't matter what my wishes are. We're doing it whether I like it or not, and it's served me well. So that's an example of TI in the real world for me.
It's also very SE because there's so much variety of different movements.
And after all, we're talking exercise, so it's TI serving SE or SE serving TI.
Right. Well, the SE is like the boss pretty much from the sound of things. I do have a question about your TI though. Your TI is feminine, so it's more movable than someone that had masculine TI. So how do you personally experience your feminine TI growing up? Do you feel like you're easily influenced, that you can easily change your what you do for yourself? Because it's
when I think of that, I think of my FE. I'm more likely, if someone says something like I'm dressing like a clown or something, which has been said to me before, I have some bright outfits, I'll think about it, and I might be influenced to change. If indeed my TI is feminine, I never really got into the masculine or feminine sides of things, but if that is indeed the case, the way I would interpret that is that I'm movable and flexible. If I have a certain, say, one of the reasons I believe in God, long story short, is I think it takes more faith to believe it's all an accident. Okay, you can agree with that, you can disagree with it, that's fine. But if someone challenges one aspect of that belief or system that I have, I'll explore it. I'm not going to just shut them down on the basis of a demon feeling wish or something. I'll look at the truth, and if I'm wrong, I'll retract my argument and put forth a new one. I think the best real life example of this is in politics. Although I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, if Donald Trump says 2 + 2 = 4, guess what? Donald Trump is absolutely right. I don't have a problem saying that. I think some of our viewers right now just cringe when they hear that. It's like, no, my TI, if you want to call it my TI and not my FE, if Satan or Hitler or some awful figure says something and what that person says has truth in it, I will acknowledge that, even if I dislike the person or abhor the human being who said it. I can separate truth and facts from my personal feelings about it. And I think moving back up to the real world, present world, if I'm rude to someone in the workplace, I can analyze it and think, yes, that person had a point. And instead of getting defensive automatically, I can make an apology if need be. I can say, you know what? You're right. I was rude and I'm sorry. And I think maybe masculine TI would have a more difficult time moving off of their beliefs or self-defense mechanism.
I think based on what you're saying, a lot of the stuff that you're saying, it sounds like double deciding. You're balanced with self and others, and also you're info dominant also. So you're obsessed with having the most accurate information. So if someone were to call you out and you agree that it's wrong, then you're okay with it because that's the accurate information, right? So you're like, okay, yeah,
The truth is most important. The facts don't care about our feelings. It would be like after eating pizza all weekend, I get on the scale and it gives me a number I don't like. Am I going to argue with the scale and say, come on, man, I only had 2 pieces and I didn't even eat the crust. This isn't fair. Come on. It's like, no, the facts don't care about our feelings. The facts don't care about any of our feelings. And the facts are what, maybe that sounds more like TE or something, but I think anyone with TI will tell you that their systems are based on factual things, or at least things they believe to be factual. Maybe it's not inductive reasoning, but it is deductive reasoning. And so the fact that we're even talking about any kind of reasoning is preferable to me than whether it feels good or not.
Since we're talking about facts, let's talk about your consume then. Your consume is ST, so you're gathering the facts. Talk about since it's your first animal, how aggressive are you when it comes to gathering facts, essentially?
I'd say that's a universal theme in my life and something I tend to struggle with in terms of overgathering. And that can be, I could open up my closet and show you 30 suits. I mean, I don't know anyone else who has 30 suits, not even celebrities, 25 pairs of work shoes, 25 different kinds of tennis shoes. So I over collect things and I need to work on that. I know that's a bit of a problem. I should save more and spend less. And that goes along with facts as well. And I would illustrate that in terms of books. I buy a ton of books. I have, we don't have objective personality books, but I do consume all the videos. I watch a lot of socionics videos and have books on that. I have a whole shelf full of MBTI books, Enneagram books as well. When I get into something, I really get into it. And I think the difficulty to come full circle with saying, what's the cash value of this idea that'll help me in the real world? At some point, you have enough facts to make a decision and take action. And too many facts are sometimes worse than not enough facts. I would rather, act without all the information than never act while still gathering more and more information. Even the books I read, as much as I love them and find them interesting, oftentimes I'm buying a $25 book for just 1 or 2 really key sentences, unique little nuggets of thought that appeal to me that I hadn't heard put that particular way before. And, at some point that's got to stop. And I just have to say, look, this is my type. This is my Enneagram type. This is my MBTI type. I already know what my issues are through my studies. I don't need more consumption, you know. And I did the same thing as a philosophy student in school and grad school. Yeah, I had so many books, and you reach a point of diminishing returns with that. So I think just like overusing our heroes in terms of Jungian functions, we can overuse our heroes in terms of our modality animals as well.
I want to ask you something about that you mentioned earlier. So you said earlier that you went to Yale and then you partied hard, something like that. You are an ESTP, and ESTPs are normally correlated with the jock type, like the archetype. You know, you would be the jock, the guy or girl that's good at sports, athletic, and whatnot. But you're also really good in school, which is more academia. So do you think it's your masculine S? So it's kind of weird too, because school requires a lot of discipline to get through. Um, so there's a lot of factors that's going against you when it comes to academia, yet you thrive in both academia and in the physical realm of exercise and movement and whatnot. So how did you, do you feel like your masculine SE was helpful in that sense, because you were able to gather facts so aggressively and then still party on the side? Like how did you balance it, and how did you make it through essentially?
Um, the first thought that comes to mind is multitasking, you know, and some studies suggest that there's really no such thing as multitasking. When we do that, or we think we're doing that, we're just going real quick from one task to another, back and forth. I think in retrospect, it was just burning the candle at both ends. I would almost attribute it to blind NI and sleep last, as much as SE being able to consume and then party and stuff like that. You know, if I could go back and do it all over again, you know, I know it's not good manners, or rather fashionable to say that I have regrets or something, but I wonder what I could have done in either sports or academia had I been how I am now, instead of wasting hours and days and perhaps years burning the candle at both ends, you know. Ultimately, I think, you know, at their extremes, you know, it's really hard. It's relative. You know, you don't, it all depends on who you're comparing yourself to. If I'm comparing myself to the guy on in his mom's basement playing video games, who is a self-typed INTP, and he's saying, no, dude, you're a feeler or something, you know. And I'm thinking, you know what? I have a degree in philosophy with a concentration in logic, and you're sitting there labeling me as a feeler or something, you know, get out of here, you know. But at the same time, at the highest levels at Yale, I know I wasn't like those professors. There's something different about them. I would say it's the same. You know, there's some self-typed ESTPs who act tough in the Facebook groups, but I know if they met me on a run and had to fight me or something, they would be like, there is an animal instinct. You know, you can tell when you're up against someone who's, you know, you're a house cat and they're a tiger or jaguar or something. You know what I mean? Like, you just feel it, you know. And I think, you know, I feel it when I meet MMA fighters. You know, like I've never lost a fight. I feel like I'm a tough person and resilient. And then I get in the bookstore, and I met one of those guys, and I was just like, fuck, this guy is a monster. He's an animal. You know, like that's a whole different level, you know. So yeah, I might be SE lead, but that's like a SE on steroids. Literally and figuratively, you know. And the same goes with those philosophy NT professors. Like, that's their arena, you know. I'd be lying if when I got a paper back with a bunch of red marks, if I wasn't sometimes thinking, shit, dude, I wish I could meet you in the ring or out in the water or any other place besides this damn classroom with all your X's and O's. And then we'll see who's the more superior individual, you know? So when we type ourselves or type others, you cannot do it in a vacuum. You know, you have to look at the top people. And this leads me to my next point, which will probably be an unpopular point. There are some people whose fourth function is perhaps better than yours, even though yours is on top and theirs is in third or fourth slot. I think Dave said it in one of his videos. He said, who was he talking about? He was talking about someone. He said, you know, he has NI last, but it's better than yours. I guarantee it. You know what I mean? And I thought, you know, some people are better balanced and they've done the exercise. You know, I might have better natural muscles than the guy down the street who lifts weights every day, but guess what? He practices it every day. And if I go in a benching contest against him, I'm going to lose. I think functions play a similar role in that, you know. So when we're looking at people self-typing themselves in Facebook groups and stuff like that, you have to know them to accurately gauge who they are and who you are. And I think at the end of this little monologue of mine, I would say, don't let other people intimidate you. You know yourself better than them, in spite of us typing ourselves upside down and all that. We've heard it all. Don't let some guy in his basement tell you what you are if it doesn't make sense to you.
All right, dude. I got two comments and I want to ask you the next question after. So first comment is earlier you were saying that someone has NI first and someone has NI last, but the person that has NI last might have a better NI than the guy that has NI first. So they did make an example, not for NI, but for SE. George St. Pierre, you know, I don't know if you know him from the UFC, and
Yeah,
you know, the greatest welterweight champion of all time, and he's an INFJ.
He's probably better than mine, even though he's an INFJ.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think he's the perfect example
Thank
of
you.
that. Yeah, yeah. So what you are saying is true, especially if you are the kind of person that do apply yourself in that arena.
No one wants to hear that, though.
Right. Yeah.
That
No one does.
You just turned a lot of people's worlds upside down with saying that, and I expect a lot of people to not be very happy with that, because it's you know, messes with their head.
Well, it's like the tennis player too. What's his name? The number one tennis player in the world. What's his name?
Novak Djokovic.
He's an INFJ also. You know, the best tennis player in the world is an N. He's not an S. You know, so it's
Right.
not another example of yeah, you don't need to have it first to be in the top, right? The other thing too is I noticed when you were talking, you were using your SE so hard, your masculine SE. You're comparing all the physical sizes, and not just physical sizes, but like like we're not talking about that physical size, but like, you know, like the different you know, like how imposing other people are and whatnot, and you can feel that someone can kill you if they really wanted to, like if, you know, there was no rules or anything. But then you also comparing the mental ability of someone, like you said, your professors are, some of them are way higher level than you mentally, so you were like huge when it comes to like comparison in a spectrum of ability. But I do want to ask you the next question here though. So you are double activated play, and your double activated play is also SF, which is the cool factor, the cool guy factor, and it's also double masculine. So it's double activated, it's double masculine. It's in a savior state. This is going to be your go-to, I guess, for your life. Like this is going to be the thing that you abuse the most. How do you experience that? I mean, I can see that, you know, the fact that you work in Hollywood, you're pretty stylish. Your room looks awesome. So you have an eye for like aesthetics essentially. You talk about your suits, right? And wanting to look good and whatnot. So that's very SF. So it's obvious that you are going all in aggressively in this world. So talk about that.
I think you really said it. You know, everything I would have started with, you already described, and I would say the important thing to know is that the F is still not quite at the level of the SE and the TI. So what does that mean in real life? That means that I could take it too far sometimes. You know, sometimes I do go a little overboard on the colors, and I can look, as someone recently told me, you look like you're going out for Halloween, you know, you look like you're in a costume, not a professional, you know. And to move away from fashion for a moment, I think another example would be selling. Okay, so I help manage a 535 unit apartment complex in Hollywood. The beautiful, engaging, you know, flashy part of that is leasing these expensive apartments and meeting someone. We don't really shake hands anymore, I guess sometimes, but you know, meeting and smiling and showing an apartment like we're on House Hunters International or something. That's me at my best. That's the SF I'm abusing. They say, oh, I love your shirt. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you look nice yourself too. And I can play that game. And I love it. The problem comes is because it's not lead FE or even savior FE, I need to come up for air. I can't do it nonstop. You know, you get an ENFJ, they could do that all day. You know, they can really turn it on all day. I can meet that level and even exceed it in short bursts, but I need to retreat and rest in between those things because it can get draining. And then I get, you know, I get a little annoyed and frustrated and impatient. And I think the impatience sometimes overtakes it. Like I can be using that SF to make an apartment sale, and they hang around longer than they should, overstaying their welcome. I start like looking at my watch, even though my watch doesn't work. It's just there for fashion. You know, like I just want them to hurry up and get the hell out, either buy or decide not to, but you're wasting my time. I want to go. You know, so I don't have the patience that someone with better FE would have, you know, but the tertiary FE charm, as they call it, that's alive and well. I think some people have mistyped me on Facebook groups in the past because that's all they see. So, you know, you see the tip of the iceberg. You know, you see St. Pierre, for instance, in a nice suit and talking very eloquently like he does. And you're going to think, man, I beat that guy's ass. All you're seeing is the tip of the iceberg. You're not seeing what he could do to you, right? And all the people on Facebook, oh no, man, you must be a feeler type. You're Enneagram 3 because you're all about flash and image and stuff. It's like, dude, you don't see the 9-hour work days, 6 days a week, grinding. You just see the tip of the iceberg. You know, when you see me looking like Conor McGregor, walking like this into the office with my pink suit on, yeah, it's like that. You're not seeing the hours in the gym and the work and the toil and the willpower it takes to do that day in, day out, every day. And I think too many times people make shallow judgments. And then in turn, those shallow judgments from the tribe can start playing with your head and make you question your own TI, right? And I'm at a place now where I'm beyond that. And I don't need to rely on the tribe for validation or to make me feel good about myself or my own typing, or for that matter, Dave and Shant's typing of me. So that the FE double activated, it is my go-to. I use it, but I can't use it like SE consume or even TI strategizing. I run out of steam quicker with it.
Your FE is also masculine. So part of the definition for FE is adhering to tribe values, or so talk about seeing what your tribe value, like let's say your family, your friends, what they value, and also valuing what your friends and family also value.
You know, in this side of it, and I don't know if I don't fit the typical mold here, but I would say I'm doing pretty well for myself right now. My life is going well, but if there's one big blind spot, it would be my social life. You know, especially ever since I got 100% clean and sober. If there's one negative aspect to that, everything social came to grinding stop. Now, I mean, COVID is a part of that. Um, Thankfully, I never got sick, so I'm kind of happy and lucky. A little bit of pride about that fact as well. But you know, my friends, you could mistake me for an introvert if we start talking about that. I'm the kind of guy who makes plans, and then when it comes down to the minute or the day of, I'm looking for an excuse to bail out because I'm working too much, too hard. I don't want to get thrown off my schedule. Even though I'm an EP, like I said, I appreciate structure and a schedule. You know, things to do lists and schedules have been my saviors. You know, like I really enjoy doing the TE thing of checking off the box of my things to do list and staying on schedule. And that masculine FE, I think it all gets just powered into being charming in the moment. There's not a lot of substance behind it. You know, it's not as strong as it looks. Once, you know, on the surface level, I make a lot of friends. I'm very warm and inviting, and people love me. If you look at where I work on the reviews, you'll see a bunch of positive reviews saying amazing things about me, and I appreciate it. But again, that's the tip of the iceberg. When you go deeper, I haven't visited my mom in years, haven't visited my brother or sister in years, haven't gone out with any adult friends in a long, long time. If we were all big cats, I wouldn't be a lion. I'd be a tiger or a jaguar. I'm kind of a loner, you know, and my social life is basically what you see on Facebook.
But is that something that's more recent because you're older, or like when you were younger, were you abusing that FE hard, like in your 20s?
Again, I abused it, but it's all surface level, you know. Relationships, for instance, you know, a lot of girlfriends. As soon as things got too deep and heavy, I'm off, you know, to the new, you know, the chase is more exciting than the catch, you could say. So abusing it, yes. Highlighted, yes. Masculine, full force, that's what the world sees, yes. But there's no substance behind it. You know, when I talk about SE, if you were to physically come out of the screen and come into my world, you could see me hitting that bag. You know, my TI, if you look at the systems I've created for myself, you can see the complexity and I want to say the beauty of the structures and systems that I put together to make my life more manageable. The FE, it looks great. I have the suits, I have the flash, I have the positive reviews, and it's kind of hollow, to be blunt and honest about it. There's not much more to it. And I feel like maybe you'd like there to be more to it, something more deeper I could express about it. But I value honesty, and I like to tell it what it is, you know, tell things how they are. And if I'm going to brag about my TI or my SE, I'm going to be honest about my FE, and my FE looks better than it is.
Gotcha. Well, since you want to talk about your systems and whatnot, let's talk about the final piece of the puzzle here, the NT sleep, NITI or TINI in your case. It's fourth. It's your last one, and it's double feminine. How do you experience it? I'm guessing that now that you're older, you can it's more visible to you now, and you can use it. You probably use it a lot nowadays. And then it's also because it's NT, it's figuring out the puzzle within your head. So how do you personally experience it, and how do you personally use it on a day-to-day basis?
It's a work in progress. It is almost a blind spot. I wouldn't say a complete blind spot. I would say, in spite of appearances, I would say FI is the real blind spot, wondering, what makes something good or bad or right or wrong. And I don't really know apart from context of specific events, and I think the thing with NI is when I was in my 20s, it was easy to overrate it. Like I thought I had all the answers, and I thought I knew where I was going and why I was going. And I knew the answers so well, I didn't have to think about it. Thus, I was always in the moment. Thus, I had a train wreck or several of them later. The way NT sleep works for me is, again, to be really truthful about it. I'm like a shark. I don't stop swimming. I don't sleep. I mean, physically I sleep. It's like, I don't want to stop. If I stop, the darkness is going to come and get me or something. I just keep going. It's kind of National Geographic. The lion gets the zebra. That zebra might have been your best friend. Are you going to stop and say, "Oh, bro, no, fuck that. I'm just going to keep running." You got him. You're not getting me. Get someone else. The NT sleep, I would say it's just a subconscious process, a work in process that's really never over for your whole life, of figuring out who you are, your place in the world, where you're going, what it all means. And that's where I think religion is, for me, necessarily a part of it. I don't go to church. I don't really practice any traditional forms of any religion, but I do have my belief system, and I use it regularly, and I use it to help me figure out more precisely my place in the world and what I'm supposed to do about it. And it happens sort of just below the surface of consciousness, and every now and then I'll have a moment, like a flash in front of me. I think, damn, I actually made it. 5 years ago, would I have thought that I would be making the money I'm making and have the things I have and my life under control like it is? No, I wouldn't have thought that. And I did it by acknowledging that I didn't have the answers, acknowledging that I needed to work on those things, and using the gifts that I always had in the moment, the SE, consume, and the willpower that comes with that combination of SE and TI. And I used it to transform myself. And I only get sporadic visions of what I was versus what I've become. And that's why it's last. That's why it's sleep, because it's foggy, it's murky. It's like driving in the fog. And when you get close, you can see, but even 20 feet further, it's murky. You don't know. So your best way to make sure you hit the spot that you need to is to be as precise as you can now, so that when you get to that next stage, you're ready for it.
Got it. All right, dude. I have last two questions for you, and then we'll wrap up the interview. The first one is, let's talk about your sexual modalities. So you are kinesthetic and audio. So you're gonna be good with your hands, essentially, physical movements, essentially, and then also with audio, like listening, music and whatnot, learning through audiobooks, for example. So talk about how you personally experience being kinesthetic audio.
Well, I haven't really thought about it, but to me, I think everyone uses all their modalities. For instance, I can't imagine learning without doing either. I can't imagine learning without a certain visual component. But the audio served me well in college when I had to listen to lectures and process information. And I've just now learned that I actually hold the information in better if I don't use notes. You know, I used to just take notes. And if you're too focused on note taking, the information that you need just goes in one ear and out the other. And then you're looking at the notes trying to read your fast, sloppy writing, and it makes no sense, you know? So that's something that I've just realized only recently. And to be a better listener, just like anything else, if you're not a good listener, you can get better just by practicing. And since that's already my natural mode of being, as soon as I stopped taking so many notes and just started watching and learning on the fly, I've grown leaps and bounds at work, learning new computer systems and different databases and stuff we use in property management. I used to always take tons of notes. Now I just listen and I get it the first time. And it's a wonderful experience to have.
All right, dude. And then last question is, do you have any question for me before we wrap up this interview?
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to say you're a pleasure to talk to and with, and I look forward to seeing other interviews on your channel. And I look forward to getting to know you better. I hope this is the beginning and not the end. And God knows I need more friends. But anyway, yeah, I just look forward to getting more invested in the community. And once meetups really start again in earnest, I hope to be there. I had a pleasure meeting Dave and Shan as well. We met at an In-N-Out Burger at Burbank on Christmas vacation of 2019. And I have some pictures of the meeting. It was pretty cool. He liked my car. Anyway, it was just some cool stuff. And I look forward to meeting you sometime in person. It'd be really nice. And learning more about your experiences of your own type. You know, maybe when the time's right, we could have a discussion and I could flip it around and ask you similar questions like you asked me. That might be something interesting for your viewers.
How tall are you? Because Dave is like freakishly tall. He's like 6'5" or something. Like,
so is Shan. They're both
yeah,
tall.
Shan is super tall too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about 5'10". I think in reality, barefoot, I'm closer to 5'9",
Yeah.
but that's my height range.
Were you shocked when you saw them? Because they're so tall, right?
I knew they were a little bit tall, but I mean, they're really tall.
Yeah.
I don't know what they say on their channel, but I mean, Shan, I mean, Dave, you know, I'm used to seeing tall guys, you know, but Shan, she must be like 6'2" or something.
Yeah.
Like, she's really tall to me. And Dave as well. I mean, they're up there, right? And they're very fit, you know, they look good, you know, so good for them.
Yeah, Shan is super fit, and Dave used to be a personal trainer, so it makes sense.
Right. Yeah, you could just tell when, you know, maybe that's SE thing. Like I said, you can look at someone and size them up. Like my mind automatically does that, whether I want it to or not. And I could tell that they're healthy and you know, in good shape. So.
All right, yeah, cool, man.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, for sure, man. This has been an awesome interview. And I really like how you are very, you know yourself well, which I appreciate. So even if the information itself wasn't exactly like the OPS information, it's good because you were so honest with yourself that the viewers can easily understand how to piece it together.
Well, hopefully it makes sense to them. You know, I think we're all unique in different ways, and I only hope that they don't look at me and start arguing over what type I really am or something like that. You know, I'm pretty well grounded in the type I think I am, and that's just what it is, you know.
Well, I mean, it's the internet, so someone's gonna call you an ISTJ or something for sure. Like it's gonna happen.
Yeah, of course.
All right, Shane, man, thanks for coming out again, and you know, enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you, Kendrick. Nice meeting you.
All right, peace out.
Bye-bye.